This happened last night, and I was tempted to just go ahead and record, but I didn't have the opportunity. So here we are today. The Syria saga continues. CNBC. Trump launches attack on Syria with 59 Tomahawk missiles by Everett Rosenfeld. The U.S. military attacked a Syria government airfield with 59 Tomahawk missiles on Thursday evening. The missiles targeted the Sharat Airbase near Homs and were in response to a Tuesday chemical weapons attack. Officially announcing the strike, President Donald Trump said the targeted airfield had launched the chemical attack on a rebel-held area, and he called on other nations to oppose Syria's embattled leader. Quote, on Tuesday, Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad launched a horrible chemical weapons attack on innocent civilians using a deadly nerve agent. Assad choked out the lives of helpless men, women, and children. It was a slow and brutal death for so many. Even beautiful babies were cruelly murdered in this very barbaric attack, end quote, Trump said Thursday night. A U.S. defense official called the U.S. strike a one-off, Reuters reported. 9 civilians, including 4 children, were killed, the Syrian state news agency claimed, but the Pentagon said civilians were not targeted. On Thursday, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said Russia had failed to carry out a 2013 agreement to secure Syrian chemical weapons, adding that Moscow was either complicit or incompetent in its ability to uphold that deal. Tillerson said the U.S. had a high degree of confidence that sarin nerve gas had been used in Tuesday's chemical attack in northern Syria. The Pentagon released details on the strike, saying it was conducted using Tomahawk missiles launched from the destroyers USS Porter and USS Ross in the eastern Mediterranean. Quote, a total of 59 Tomahawk land attack missiles targeted aircraft, hardened aircraft shelters, petroleum and logistical storage, ammunition supply bunkers, air defense systems, and radars, end quote, Pentagon spokesman Captain Jeff Davis said in a statement. Quote, as always, the U.S. took extraordinary measures to avoid civilian casualties and comply with the law of armed conflict, end quote. The Pentagon called the U.S. airstrikes a proportional response to Assad's heinous act. No people were targeted, an official told NBC. Additionally, Russian forces were notified in advance of the strike, according to the Pentagon. Quote, U.S. military planners took precautions to minimize risk to Russian or Syrian personnel located at the airfield, end quote. That's pretty interesting, and Davis said. Still, Tillerson said the U.S., quote, sought no approval from Moscow, end quote. Syrian armed rebels welcomed the airstrike. Ahrar al-Sham, an opposition group backed by Gulf states, responded, quote, the armed opposition welcomes any U.S. intervention through surgical strikes that would deter the Assad regime capabilities to kill civilians and shorten the suffering of our people, end quote. Syrian state TV, meanwhile, said, quote, American aggression targets Syrian military targets with a number of missiles, end quote. Earlier Thursday, Reuters reported that a British diplomat had said the United Nations Security Council would not vote Thursday on a draft resolution to condemn Tuesday's gas attack, but will continue negotiations. Russia's deputy UN envoy Vladimir Safronkov issued a warning ahead of the U.S. attack. Quote, we have to think about negative consequences. Negative consequences and all the responsibility if military action occurred will be on the shoulders of those who initiated such doubtful and tragic enterprise, end quote, Safronkov told reporters when asked about possible U.S. strikes, adding that such consequences could be seen in Iraq and Libya. Doesn't that sound like a veiled threat to support ISIS or something? Like, what could Russia be doing in Iraq and Libya to confound America other than that? Well, Libya is a different case, obviously. But that's essentially what I'm hearing. The Russian response on Friday morning said the strikes violated international law and would do significant damage to relations between Russia and the United States. The Russian news agency Interfax reported comments from the Kremlin which said the strikes had happened under a far-fetched pretext. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Vladimir Putin believed the U.S. attacks on Syria showed aggression against a sovereign state. Western countries have blamed President Bashar Assad's armed forces for Tuesday's attack in the town of Khan Shaykhun. Syria's government has denied responsibility. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio appeared to be tweeting about an American offensive action in Syria, posting at 8 p.m. Eastern, quote, be sure of this, the wicked will not go unpunished. Proverbs 11:21, hashtag Syria chemical attack, end quote. What a cool guy you are, Marco Rubio. The United States, Britain, and France proposed a draft UN resolution on Tuesday to condemn the attack and press Syria to cooperate with international investigators. Russia said the text was unacceptable, and it proposed a rival draft. In February, Syrian ally Russia, backed by China, cast its seventh veto to protect Assad's government from council action, blocking a bid by Western powers to impose sanctions over accusations of chemical weapons attacks. China has vetoed 6 resolutions on Syria. The Security Council resolution needs 9 votes in favor and no votes by the United States, Britain, France, Russia, or China to pass. Those 5 countries are in the United Nations Security Council. And if it seems like an odd bunch of bedfellows, there's a then also there's a rotating seat. I don't know who's on the rotating seat now, but there's a sixth seat that rotates between any member state. How you get on the UN Security Council is you win World War II. That's how you do it. If you win World War II, you're on the Security Council. It's this weird historical artifact of the Bretton Woods system in the mid-20th century. All right, so this is fascinating. First of all, the 60 missiles were launched approximately in 1 hour. So 60 missiles in 60 minutes. I want to see the crater that is that place. It was eviscerated. It seems like a few people couldn't get out. But it was very honorable, I think, in my opinion, of Trump, to say, hey, get the fuck out of there. We're going to blow that place out of the sky. It's going to be gone. It's going to be eviscerated. He targeted the base, not any people. And that's a political action. It's a violent political action. I agree. But it's an interesting precedent. I mean, it's so many. It's so huge. I mean, like, this is obviously. If I were to put myself in the mind of Trump, I'm thinking, all right, now no one knows what I'm going to do. I'm unpredictable. They know I mean business. They know I'm not fucking around. They know that I act swiftly and I act quickly. Overwhelming force, like the old Powell doctrine. You know, none of that Rumsfeld doctrine shit. We're going with overwhelming force, and I can kind of respect that. This is justifiable, but at the same time, it's such an extreme response and it's so swift that it seems almost impulsive. And if a guy's this impulsive, he's also very easily manipulated. And if something like this happens again, someone could make Trump respond and react in a way that's politically disadvantageous to the United States in the long run. In this case, I think it's kind of a long time coming. We see what's going on here. These vetoes, they can. It's kind of like what the U.S. does with Israel, is basically what Russia's doing with Syria. Every time, and no matter how bad the activity of Israel or Syria comes up, they have allies on the Security Council who would veto any resolution that does anything against them, any sanctions, any occupy, anything. The UN is completely paralyzed with respect to some of these vassal states to the members of the UN Security Council. And so as a result, they'll just get back to, hey, let's have some investigators, and let's have a treaty, and let's cooperate, months and months and months and months. Trump doesn't have the patience for this kind of crap. A guy like Trump is going to make something happen, and I'm not sure he made the right decision, but considering all the decisions he could have made, I think this is probably the best case scenario.